Willow's back, baby, with another fun episode, another action-packed episode. I think this is probably, I don't think it's my favorite episode of the season, but I think this is coming in as my second favorite. I still think episode three takes the cake for me, for various reasons, but this is a really close second. I mean, it's might even be neck and neck. It's VFX laden and also creature laden. Like the Mudmander creature that they show. This is like I don't know if the Jim Henson Creature Shop did the work on this or if ILM did it, but this is like watching, if you didn't watch Netflix, the Dark Crystal series they did a couple years back. The creatures were amazing in that show, the puppets and everything, and this is up to that level, where they're actually coming in and bringing in some creatures and mixing them with some of the special effects they've done. So yeah, thumbs up from me. If this is your first time, don't forget, I don't do spoiler free, so this is a spoiler heavy review. We're going to be doing a whole breakdown of the episode from start to finish. So if you don't want things spoiled, don't watch this until you've watched the episode on your own. But if you have watched it, welcome. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, drop a super thanks to support, or join as a member of the channel. Don't forget the Patreon page. Let's dive in and go. So, the episode is called Beyond the Shattered Sea, and I have to admit that I didn't actually think that they were going to get to the Immemorial City in season one. There was a part of me that was thinking maybe they were going to save that for season two, but after watching this episode, I'm like, maybe they're just going to do a one and done. I don't know if they're actually going to try to expand this too much beyond seasons two and three, and they probably wrote this in such a way that they wanted to give season one a proper ending in case they don't come back for season two. I don't know if that's the case because we still have one more episode to go, but yeah, they do get to the Immemorial City, and it's done in a very interesting way. Which, while I was watching, I was kind of like, and then I got to the end, and I was like, okay, fair enough. I can appreciate what they did here. But we're going to talk about that today. In the meantime, let's go with where the show actually started. So the girl that Eric met in the city. So she's not buying any of his banter, right? She's like, come on, you're trying to be all smooth and everything with me. And I don't think it's a routine that he's created. I think this is just who he is. And while he may have leveraged this in the past, he's realizing here that it's quite useless, at least against her. And so he very quickly tries to course correct and try to be like a normal person, and realizing that they're stuck here until they can figure out a solution together, um, or until the things that brought them here return. And she gives a little bit of information about herself, and this is where I'm still somewhat. I don't know that. Well, I'll get to it at the end. Yeah, I don't want to spoil that until. I mean, it's not spoiling, but at the same time, let's just talk about this. I guess I'm trying to think about how to do this in the course of a review. So obviously, the princess has been here a long time, right? And we find that out throughout the course of the episode. And by the end of it, I'm still not sure. Is she the princess who has just been here a long time and has been corrupted because of the time that she's been here, or is she actually an apparition, like a part of the Crone? I don't know yet. Like, because the visions of the Crone we've seen in Elora Danon's head are of this creepy, nasty old looking woman. Maybe not even a woman, just some creepy looking creature thing. But this is a very, beautiful young woman, and I don't know how they're doing that yet. But there are some questions I have, and we'll get to those at the end of the episode. So, um, we flash forward then to Elora Danon, and she's done real magic and pulled Kit out of the freaky lake with the crusty top. And after that, they're on this coastal region, and Willow's looking back over his shoulder towards the mountains while Boorman is stressing out the armor and the Lux Arcana and whether or not it's going to work. And he's got some internal struggling going on, which gets revealed later on in the episode, which is essentially just him, you know, sort of struggling with, am I worthy of this? And who am I? I've done all these bad things. Does that make me a bad person? Can I redeem myself? Am I redeemable? So some interesting thoughts going through Borman's head because he's been a very arrogant player, up until this point, and he's starting to have self-doubts about who he is and everything else, which is an interesting storyline. But as we get to the Shattered Sea, it's actually not like I don't. It's not like an ocean. It's more of like a salt flat, at least as far as I understood the way they've visually presented it. It's like salt flats, and they talk about needing to walk across it. and on the other side of it is the Immemorial City. But before they can go there, Kit is sick because of her ordeal underneath the water. They need to look for supplies, and this is the first time I've felt a little like the story just kind of jumped, and suddenly they're at this old man's house out on the water plains, and I was like, well, how long did they spend in the flats on the coast? How long did they spend walking? Like the story just kind of jumped, and suddenly they're at this old man's house that they found. But then as it started to progress, I realized, oh, they've got little islands and everything else, so it made a little bit more sense. It was just the way it was presented felt jumpy, if that makes sense. But in any case, it's Julian Glover, who is a Lucasfilm favorite, um, this old man actor, and he is old now. He's got to be in his 70s. He was in Game of Thrones as well, but as the Grand Maester. But this guy, I mean, he was in Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade. He's in Empire Strikes Back. He's in a lot of Lucasfilm's projects over the years. So it's really cool to see another Lucasfilm favorite coming back, kind of like Willow, and like Warwick Davis, and getting a chance to do lots of different things for Lucasfilm. So it was really cool to see him, and he has a really interesting story. But I like how he introduced him. He's like Zeb Siltsley, available for excursions around the eastern coast. So apparently he's got this tourist operation where he's got this water wagon, so to speak, that's pulled by this creature, the Mudmander, who we don't actually get to see until later on the episode, but the reveal is quite nice when we see it, and also the emotional connection that Graydon has with it is very strong, which is really cool. But we come to find out as they spend a night with this old man, he apparently was a paladin of Kashmir, sent here to rescue the princess, who was taken by a dark power many, many, many years ago. And then his mind starts to wander because he's talking about, there were three of us that were sent out. We wandered the salt flats, the shattered sea for days, weeks, months, who knows, and we killed each other off. Or maybe there was maybe it was that other quest for the forbidden pool, or maybe it was this other quest over here. And each time he changes his mind, there's thunder crashing in the background. So, I mean, is the crone messing with his mind? What's going on here? But essentially, when I saw this scene, I was like, oh, so that princess might not be who she says she is, which we kind of suspected at the end, when she was introduced. That like, wait a second, it's kind of sus that there's somebody else here. Is that really a princess, or is it the crone, or is it somebody else? And you really get the sense now that something's definitely at play. Whether or not she is who she says she is another story. But if he is an old man and he was sent to rescue the princess, there's either time travel at play or there's some sort of magic at work here because she doesn't look any older than Eric. So this is our first sense that something was off with her, like really like an actual proof something was off. But in any case, then we flash back to Eric, and he's waking up to the pool that he's been drinking out of, suddenly covered with some type of a lid, and it's covered in sand as if a lot of time has passed, or maybe it's a way to force him to, excuse me, become thirsty. I don't know. But he starts looking for the girl, and he finds her with this door open into the interior, and she's looking through, and there's like light coming beyond, and she's like, "Come on, let's go explore. Maybe it's a way out." And he's like, "I don't want to. It's not worth it." Walks away because he can feel that it's bad energy on the other side of that door. And then we get a reveal of her face, and she's very upset that he won't go through the door with her. But then she quickly masks it and comes back out, and she says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You know." Um, and at the same time that this happens, the pool is magically uncovered again, and Eric can drink from it once again. So something's definitely up here because it seems like they're trying to force Eric to not drink that water. You need to drink this other water somewhere else, which I didn't really understand what was going on until the end of the episode. So that plays into what comes later. So we do get this moment, though, as she tries to gain Eric's trust, as she tells the story of Kashmir, of a secret sect, ancient blood magic, the Order of the Worm, and how one day they fought their way in and kidnapped the princess. And that's when he realizes that she is the princess. So this goes back to the old man wandering in the desert for years. So there's definitely some weird, like, preservation magic or time travel magic or something going on here. But she is the princess, or was the princess. That remains to be seen. Meanwhile, we're back on the Shattered Sea. It's breakfast time at the old man's hut, and here comes the harpy. They're getting attacked by the harpy, and that magic user with like the thing over his face So they break out, they take the water wagon, and they're speeding across the sea, and it reminds me a lot of the wagon chase sequence from the Willow film. It was a lot of fun. Um, Borman seems terrified to actually put the Lux Arcana again. He won't do it. He's scared about it. Um, Graydon appears to use some magic with his flute, so he's got some powers inside of him as well, which may or may not be tied to the curse he had in the times he's been possessed. We don't know that for sure yet. But there's also a subtle hint here that I had not noticed this until someone mentioned it, that Alora Dannon's hair has been turning red as she gets more and more powerful with magic. In this episode, she's fully red-haired again. And she uses the wand, which is kind of cool. Um, but what's really interesting to me is I like the world building here because they find these little island oases to rest at. And we finally get the Mudmander reveal here on the first island that they rest at. And it's so freaking cute and cool. And I just love seeing creatures that are done by hand because it's such artistry, the way they can use robotics and puppetry to make it. It's really cool. But this is also an important scene because while Graydon is bonding with the creature, Alora now wants to train because she realizes after that fight just how precarious her situation is, and she's amped up and wants to defend herself. But it's not just her; it's also um, um, Kit and Jade. But there's also a really cool sequence here. And some really cool VFX because Willow and Alora are going at it, and everyone's watching. Borman's getting drunk watching them train, and it's really cool. And then we get a montage, and this is where the passage of time is allowed. And they did it in a very tasteful way because we get a montage of travel of weeks, months, we're not sure how long, but it's writing by day, studying, resting by day, and training by night. And Graydon's also training. So it's not just Laura Dannon. During one of the training sessions, Willow is kind of taunting Laura and trying to push her limits and get her to break through and actually hurt him, and she won't do it. But as this is happening, she hears the Crone's voice, and there's a very quick flash of the Crone's face, which is a creepy, nasty looking old creature. And she teaches Alora this hex to use, and it hurts Willow. And it's the narcotic language, I think is what they call it. It was really neat. But we also get some story building from Willow, and he's talking to Kit. I think it was Kit about how if if magic is the lifeblood of the universe, the worm feeds on that lifeblood, and he's imprisoned beneath the world, waiting and sleeping. And if the order of the worm can awake it, well, that's when his visions come into play. So it's really cool world building in my mind into what's coming later on down the pipeline. And as they're at night trying to conquer their fears, on one of these nights out on the islands. Willow's having a nightmare. Borman's finally trying the Lux. It doesn't do anything, and he gets all frustrated and pissed. Willow's having another nightmare of the crones separating them. Graydon sets the mud creature free. Alora's like, "Wake up! You know, it's the crone trying to separate us." Um, and it's this night of where everyone is starting to feel doomed, and it is the crone working here. But Alora is the one who's still she's getting past it now, and she's like, "It's not far. We're close. We have to walk," like Willow said in the beginning, and she can feel how close they are. And there's these moments as they get towards the end of their destination where they're in the desert and they're all sort of professing feelings for each other, and hey, if we're all gonna die. And Graydon professes his love for Alora, but it's done in a very platonic way, sort of. He's like, "You don't have to love me back. It's okay, but I love you because you finally helped me become the man I always wanted to be. Because of meeting you and going on this journey, I went from being this timid little child to being able to use magic and learn how to use weapons. And I'm on this adventure and I'm getting to do all these things that I always wanted to do. So it's really cool. And they do reach the end of the world, and it's literally a drop off, like a big waterfall. And they're all getting frustrated, realizing that they can't go any further. And Laura is yelling that this can't be the end. The vision, the same vision that Willow's been having. And Willow's like, "How do you know about the vision?" And she's like, "The crone has been showing it to me." And there's this great moment of confliction, um, and 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 Willow admitting that he's not a great sorcerer. He's just a farmer who got lucky. And Alora's crying because she doesn't want to be the destined one, fated to die. And Kit is the one here who finds inner strength and says, "Don't worry, we'll do it together." Grabs Allura, and then they both jump off the edge of the world, which felt a little bit traumatic, but it is what it is. They land on water on a beach. They climb up the beach and see the Immemorial City stretched out in front of them, and they meet up with Kit, who has a brand new look, and he's looking fit and he's looking energized, which means he's got something going on here. Um, and it's because that in the city, this is a happened a little bit before this, but I wanted to save this for the end to talk about this. Um, the creepy girl has Eric dying of thirst, and she gets him into the chamber and gives him a drink from a goblet from this inner circle of liquid and whispers, "Don't be afraid. We've got you now." And who is the we? Who is the we? Is this the Crone? Is this the Brotherhood of the Worm, the Order of the Worm? Like, who is she? What's going on here? Why does Eric have a new haircut? What did he drink? Why is he all energized? Is he now a bad guy? Uh, I questions. I have so many questions, and there's only one more episode to go. So it's going to be very interesting to see where they take us for the final episode. Whether they're going to give us an actual finale or we're getting a cliffhanger leading into a season two, we don't know yet. Um, Again, really good episode. I was very much entertained the whole way. I love seeing creatures, so that was a good plus for me. I did feel a little, this is one where some of these have been 10 out of 10 for me. This one gets an 8 out of 10. The reason it gets an 8 out of 10 is because I do feel like they did rush it a little bit. Um, when they jumped from the mountains of the trolls to the shattered sea, it was like, what happened with all that distance that they traveled, or was that just pointless traveling that they decided to get out? But at least they did the travel montage with the shattered sea to explain the passage of time. So I wish they would have done that between the mountain and the beach as well. But it is what it is. Like I said, still 8 out of 10. We got great VFX this episode. Lots of magic happening this episode, which was really cool. And creatures. I'm never going to be upset when there's creatures on hand. So good for me. Hopefully it was good for you. Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, support with the super chat. Super thanks. Join as a member. Hit up the Patreon page. Links are below. See everybody in the next episode. Peace. One more to go.